Russian 20th and 25th Combined Arms Armies have their sights set on Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, the last two major free cities in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast. After spending much of 2025 capturing Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, 50 kilometers southwest of Kramatorsk, the Russians have an obvious, albeit difficult, south-to-north path toward the Kramatorsk-Sloviansk conglomeration. But they're aiming to open a west-to-east path too by advancing through the town of Lyman, crossing the Siverskyi Donets River, and rolling along the T-0514 into Sloviansk, 15 kilometers from Lyman. The Ukrainian Third Army Corps is determined to stop them, and it's not waiting for the Russians to leave their underground dugouts and launch their assault on Lyman and the Ukrainians' Siverskyi Donets bridgehead. In recent weeks, a drone team working with the Third Army Corps found and targeted 4 Russian tanks and 7 Russian infantry fighting vehicles in their dugouts. We know that Russians plan to attack our positions with IFVs, drone operator Kriegsforscher reported. So Kriegsforscher and his team have been trying to destroy Russian IFVs and tanks in their shelters, blunting the coming Russian assault before it can begin. If the tactic works at scale, it could blunt Russia's assault on Lyman, the gateway to Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, the last two major free cities in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast. It's easier said than done. While sheltering underground and covered in camouflage, armored vehicles are extremely hard to detect from the air. Even night vision drones fitted with heat-detecting thermal cameras, which can quickly spot moving vehicles with their hot engines and exhaust, may struggle to detect a below-ground vehicle while it's not moving, and its engine is cold. So Kriegsforscher explained that his team is using a special tactic. Yes, they're conducting the usual aerial reconnaissance with drones, but they're also using signals intelligence, or SIGINT. It's the practice of listening in on enemy communications and triangulating the enemy's location based on the signals. Kriegsforscher's team found and attacked those 11 Russian vehicles with the help of air recon and SIGINT, the drone operator wrote. It's not the first time Kriegsforscher's team has used SIGINT to hunt down Russian vehicles. As winter fell across Ukraine late last year, and the thick fog that's typical of Ukrainian winters began blanketing much of the 1,100-kilometer front line, the Russians quickly realized they could use the fog as cover. Drones with thermal cameras can see right through the fog, but as recently as last fall, most of Ukraine's drones only had optical cameras that strictly see in daylight. In November, visibility for optical drones was just 50 yards, according to Kriegsforscher. The poor visibility tended to significantly degrade a drone-based defense, noted analyst Michael Kaufman from the Carnegie Endowment in Washington, D.C. The Ukrainians adapted quickly. While rushing to install thermal cameras on a much larger share of their aerial drones, they also began deploying ground robots to linger for hours or even days at a time along the likeliest assault routes and log-passing Russian vehicles. At the same time, the Ukrainians zeroed in on Russian forces by tracing their radio chatter. Ukrainian troops have awful weather conditions during the day and night, Kriegsforscher wrote in late November. But with the help of SIGINT and other tools, we are able to destroy the enemy. Kriegsforscher listed 7 targets, all BTR 80/82AT wheeled infantry fighting vehicles from the 1st and 252nd Motor Rifle Regiments, slowly advancing north of Lyman. Destroying the 7 BTRs between 23rd and 28th November, Kriegsforscher's unit claimed it killed 19 Russians. 2 months later, Kriegsforscher's team achieved a similar feat, striking those 11 Russian vehicles before they could even leave their dugouts. The drone raids may only delay the coming push on Lyman. Troops of the Russian 20th and 25th Combined Arms Armies will advance north and east of Lyman, with the aim of isolating the defense area of the Third Army Corps of Ukrainian Defense Forces around the city from the north and northwest, the Ukrainian Center for Defense Strategies warned on Wednesday. The Russians' goal is to reach the Siverskyi Donets River south of the city, CDS added. If the Russians can cross the river and hop onto the T-0514, they may be able to ride it all the way to Sloviansk. the Russian center group of forces is trying to do in Kostyantynivka in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk Oblast, what it recently did in neighboring Myrnohrad and Pokrovsk. Infiltrate the city with DRGs and other small groups of infantry, while also encircling it from the flanks. The infiltrators destabilize the Ukrainian defense, the encirclement strangles it. Mapper Playfra was the first to report the possible presence of Russian infiltrators in Berestovy district, on the western edge of Kostyantynivka, last week. It is unclear if they were subsequently eliminated or not, but the fact that they were present there clearly hints at Russian intentions in this sector, Playfra wrote on 13th January. Previously, the Russians had tried to sneak into Kostyantynivka along its eastern edge in the vicinity of Santurinivka district, but Ukrainian defenses held, so the Russians pivoted west. They're attempting to find another way into the city, Playfra reported. It's likely the Berestovyi infiltrators were eliminated, assuming they actually ever penetrated that far. The most recent confirmed clashes along the southwestern edge of Kostyantynivka occurred south of the town, between the villages of Ilanivka in the north and Berestov in the south. The Russian 103rd Motorized Rifle Regiment, or nearby units, fired a Mista B 152mm howitzer and launched Vandal drones at Ukrainian positions in Ilanivka. The Ukrainian 111th Territorial Defense Brigade and adjacent units, which include the 93rd and 156th Mechanized Brigades, fought back with their own drones and artillery, blasting Russian positions in Berestov. But that back-and-forth bombardment may not be the main event. As part of their offensive actions, Russian forces are also sending numerous DRG groups to the north, bypassing Ilanivka from the west, Thorkel warned. The real action, in other words, could be playing out north of Ilanivka, in the vicinity of the so-called First Pond that lies between Ilanivka and Kostyantynivka. If enough Russians can slip through those purported gaps and consolidate in buildings and basements, they could create a base of operations for further attacks to the north. The worst-case scenario is the same as it was last week, when Playfra first began warning of possible Russian infiltrations in and around Kostyantynivka. The Russians clearly aim to cut across the H-20 road, which threads into Kostyantynivka 4 kilometers north of Ilanivka.